Hello everyone, I hope you're doing fine. My name is Skyline, and today is May 15th. We haven't done an Overwatch Daily in a week. Whoa! I don't even remember how to play this game anymore. Well, let's remember as we watch, oh, what? They're not Korean teams? No, let's watch some good old Western teams duke it out. We'll definitely get into some more Apex stuff tomorrow and going forward. Plus, we have a special episode coming out, so I was preparing for that a little bit. So let's get into the game. Anyway, we're LG Evil versus Counterlogic Gaming, and so Counterlogic Gaming, CLG, as they're colloquially called, is on the right. As I get on my pens, I always forget. And let's talk about Numbani a little bit. All right, what are they running? They're running a pretty classic composition. They're running Waffle Tascon Tracer. In our last Numbani video, we talked about how this is maybe a little bit not as great as a Genji. Teams do still run this. They like it, but it still is not always that great. And we're going to see that right here. LG Evil is running a counter dive composition themselves. Notice that they are running a Tracer, but it's okay because the Tracer can start on the high ground. She doesn't need to worry about getting up onto the high ground, and she can maneuver around quite nicely. So CLG with some nice shots by Hydration. Nice air shot on the Genji there. That was a huge shot, by the way, in terms of actually progressing this fight forward. CLG looks pretty strong. Now note, oh no, wait, where is it? The dies. Oh, the didn't die yet. There we go. Oh no, that's pretty catastrophic. You can't die. Your Mercy just cannot die in this 2v6, 3v6 type of situation. And that's sort of the catalyst that is leading up to these next few events. But more importantly, we have, well, Winston dives in. Notice all we have left is, oh no, not even anymore. Right, the Lucio, but Lucio cannot actually heal through Winston's shield. So all this Winston had to do, all that Super had to do on Winston was jump in, throw the shield down, and all of a sudden, Mikado couldn't heal his team. V died very early on, and so this very nice push by CLG was stopped relatively with quite a bit of pain. They got 2, but still. Now, there's a swap. There will be a swap. Oh, not yet. We're going to have another fight, actually. But, all right, we're going to come in. Now, notice, Train. Only a 91% ultimate charge. Almost 2 minutes into the game. That's pretty low. And I'm talking a little bit about how Tracer is not so good on attack on the first point. I've seen this historically, although teams still do prefer it. If we look in here, now notice where CLG is, where LG Evil is rather. We have a Diva up here. We have Winston who can just leap around. Genji who can leap around. Waffle-tastic on CLG. Man, I'm getting the names wrong. Today's a mess, but it's okay because it's our first day back. You can't say anything bad about it, right? You just have to accept it. So, Waffle-tastic having a little bit of a difficult time. Rather, should I point to his ultimate charge instead? Having a little bit of a difficult time finding shots. He already used one, but 145% ultimate charge, 2 minutes in. Same boat. Not so good. Not so great. CLG gets pushed back. But now we have a swap. And that is to the Roadhog. CLG swaps off the Roadhog. Why? Okay, first of all, Tracer wasn't working out very well. All right, but also look at this composition from LG Evil. What is the point of this composition? Well, you have the Ana on the high ground, and then pretty much no one else who can get dove. That's the idea, because on Numbani, everyone runs dive compositions, and LG Evil is running something that can't get dove, except for the Ana, which they need to be very careful about that. They could have theoretically run a Mercy. You can't really dive a Mercy either, if the Mercy plays properly. But here, LG Evil, the only hero that can actually get dove, is the Ana. And Jake is pretty low, but he's fine. Now, Rob420, the Ana player for LG Evil, will die. Oh no, so sad. And because of this, CLG winds up winning this fight. But the idea behind LG Evil's composition, the defending team, is, like I said before, it's Numbani. The other team's going to run a dive composition. We're going to run something that can't be dove upon. Now, they're running an Ana because an Ana is very, very strong in Numbani, obviously. She can see the entire battlefield from the high ground. She can heal anyone from any distance. Numbani, pretty wide open point, relatively. Very good. If you dive her, she can hide behind in the corridor and sleep people. Pretty strong. It's really easy to get sleeps off in the narrow corridors of the back area of Numbani's point. So theoretically, it should be okay. But when your Ana dies, all you have left is a Lucio versus all this diviness. Like I said, Lucio can't heal through a Winston bubble. So it starts to get a little bit awkward. And without the healing that they normally would have with the Ana up there, and with CLG executing this relatively well, plus they also swapped off to the Roadhog, who's very, very strong against these types of heroes. Train on Tracer is significantly weaker when a Roadhog is running around because she can't just blink in, blink out like she doesn't care. You know, hooking a Tracer kills her immediately. We have issues with Jake on Genji. His blade potentially can just get shut down from a hook. So Waffle-tastic, great swap off onto the Roadhog here. So they take the point. Cool. Let's push into the next one. Now, let's skip ahead a little bit. Waffle-tastic swaps off once again to the Tracer. Now, this is a better area for Tracer in the second point of Numbani because it's much flatter. Lots of long, narrow space. Well, not narrow, but lots of long spaces. Lots of room for Tracer to blink around, really utilize her mobility. So it's understandable that we swap off to the Tracer here. Also, Rob420, we swap off as well from our Ana as well on defense. On defense, they swapped. If we look here, Rob420 swapped onto the Zenyatta. Why? Interesting. Well, let's watch. Let's just watch. But besides that, everything else is relatively samey. We see Jake tries to be Bird Ring or some other super sick Korean Genji with the aerial blade to kill the Pharah. Doesn't quite get it though. It's a really hard play, guys. Genjis lately have been doing it a lot more because they see other Genjis do it and they want to try it themselves, but it is not a consistent play. Well, anyway, the blade completely misses, and that's a big part of why LG Evil on defense lost that fight, because having a blade whiff like that is not super, super amazing. Regardless, CLG still has the Mercy. Yeah, the Mercy Resurrect as well. V has been dying a little bit more often than he should in some of these games, but he doesn't this time. We have the fight. It's very, very hard to push this area because if you look as the attackers are pushing through, the defenders have to come from the super, super, super long angle, or they have to run all the way around up onto the high ground where you can't really contest the point. So it's a little bit awkward either way. Now, Jake makes some nice shots, but in the end, we're just going to watch the fight through. CLG winds up taking the point. And so, let's talk more about the Zenyatta. The Zenyatta didn't do very well, clearly there. Zenyatta kind of got killed every single time. It was a bit of a dreary sort of scenario for him. Zenyatta doesn't really have anywhere to run. But what is the advantage of having him? Well, he gives you a little bit more damage. Remember, we have Jake swapping off to the soldier, so now you can do this little combo here where Jake babysits Rob. You have the soldier Zenyatta combo. Hard, difficult to dive that. What else can he do? Well, Ana was clearly having a little bit of difficult time because if we look at the composition, we have diviness, especially against a Winston. Oh no, not a Winston. Winston is so, so dreadful for an Ana to deal with. Because remember, before LG Evil was running Lucio Ana, neither of them can heal through a shield. So, Aishani, just playing so well, was able to deal with that. was able to just shut them completely down. Zenyatta tries to address this, although there really isn't too much for him to Transcendence. Not too much. So that's the one downside of this Zenyatta pick. Normally you want to pick Zenyatta into maybe a team that has lots of like Genji blades, lots of stuff like that, maybe a visor, a nano visor, so that you have those counter ultimates. But so I thought that the camera work for this particular game was, well, it was a bit unlucky. The plays always sort of happen off camera, so we can't talk about that too much. But this was a relatively important NA game. I know people in the chat are like, why are we doing NA? Well, there are plenty of Korean games to go over, don't worry. But I thought that this was, this is the grand finals. All right, pretty cool, right? CLG versus LG Evil. LG Evil's partner team just got dropped, unfortunately. So it's good to see the NA. It's good to see the Western teams fight and look at them a little bit, even though I know Apex is super, super exciting. So we have 1 minute 30 seconds left, rather. We're on the Zenyatta now. And, well, Zenyatta doesn't have his ultimate. He goes down pretty early. Unfortunately, the Zenyatta pick, as we're seeing, because I said let's just watch the Zenyatta, it's not working out very well. Because I told you what LG Evil was trying, right? They tried, okay, let's combo these guys. Let's try to get some more damage. Let's, I don't know, try some of that stuff. But really, there is not enough peel. They will also try to counter the Winston as well. Right now, CLG is just executing too well. They're killing Rob 420 too quickly. There aren't any tools on LG Evil to peel for him. All you have is a Vast really on Lucio, and he hasn't been doing that because remember, the rest of this team, the Diva, the Winston, the Tracer, they're all diving in, and because Lucio doesn't have that range aura anymore, he has to dive in with them, leaving poor old Rob to fend for himself. Plus, we have a Diva self-destruct that went off pretty well. Waffle-tastic here swaps off to McCree for similar reasons why he swapped off to Roadhog earlier, just because Roadhog is so darn good against all these squishy, flanky sorts of heroes. Same thing with McCree, except the difference here is that the third point of Numbani has longer sight ranges. So that's why. The first point has shorter sight ranges, better for Roadhog's hook. Third point has longer sight ranges, better for McCree's long-range pistol. But despite that, we actually wind up coming back from LG Evil. They have they're gonna pop Super. Super, by the way, has been played phenomenally throughout this entire series. He gets a really nice primal rage off that winds up killing Waffle-tastic. He can't do much. And now let's talk about counter logic gaming a little bit. So iShiny swaps off of the Winston. It's because of the attempt. So obviously Rob sort of trying to counter Winston a little bit. Kinda. But really, I don't think this was very necessary. I thought that iShiny was doing a pretty good amount of work. Although, you have to think, with 20 seconds left, this is also good time management. Theoretically, if you swap off of the Winston, you allow a ton of this crazy stuff that LG Evil can actually do. Because the Winston was forcing LG Evil off of the Ana, for example. The Winston was forcing them off of a lot of these backline picks. But if you swap to Reinhardt, they get access to that. Only 20 seconds left, though. They can't. So, if you are going to switch to this cheeky little thing, this is the time to do it. Notice they swap, go to triple tank immediately, just completely 360. And this does not give LG Evil any time to respond. They do, theoretically. Good on LG Evil, however, to notice that. And they swap up a little bit. And I think that CLG swapped a little bit too early because they still have 13 seconds left. When they swapped, Super and Train were still kind of, I think one of them was dead. I think Train was dead. Super is obviously Winston. If they had waited a couple more seconds for the respawn to come out, they would have been able to get a little bit more of a surprise factor there. But still, LG Evil doing the dutiful duty of pressing tab. And now they have Nano Blade. So this is it. This is the Nano Blade of Destiny. If we look here, we have Nada versus a lotta ults, that is. And so Avast pops the barrier. Obviously, barrier will eat a couple of Genji swings. Panic from Rob 420 means he pops the Transcendence. I mean, not really panic. It was just a safety move because theoretically I think he was okay for another 2 seconds or so. But Hydration could always do the slash dash plus maybe a shot from around the corner or something. You know, from Waffle-tastic, maybe a right click, something like that. Could have theoretically taken out Rob. So he popped the Transcendence early just for that extra safety because they had the fight anyway. Cool, cool, cool. This is a relatively, spoiler alert, this is a relatively short game. I'm just, honestly, we're just trying to, because I had my week off or whatever, doing my stuff, working on some projects, trying to get back into it. And so today's just a mess around. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday? Can confirm. It's Monday. All right. Let's go ahead. And so these team compositions look pretty familiar, right? They look pretty similar. LG Evil is on attack right now. Instead of playing Pharah Mercy, they choose to play Zenyatta as their support, in addition to a soldier. So this is a little bit of a slower, pushier style. They aren't going to go all in necessarily like CLG was. Well, CLG didn't execute in an all-in manner, but that is still an all-in sort of team that they were running earlier with the Pharah Mercy and all the divey dive. Here they're going to push up a little bit more. Rob 420 and Jake are going to sort of act as their duo buddies, as we've discussed in the past on their defense. And CLG, by the way, is running the same comp that LG Evil was, except instead of a Tracer, they're running Waffle-tastic on Soldier, which is, I think, still a little bit better. As we're going to see, he does a lot of work. Well, he does a fair amount of work. A fair amount, as much as a little bit more than you might expect. So we push in here from LG Evil. And notice the train. We're on train's perspective right now, so we can clearly see it. Before, we were never on the Tracer's perspective, so it was hard to really demonstrate. But we're on train's perspective right now. And I'm going to actually reset it here. It's not terrible. I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, but just he can't quite get as much as he wants to. All he can really do is focus on the Winston and the Diva. He can't get to any backliners that he wants to. And so LG Evil will actually wind up winning this fight. Maybe. No, do they win this fight? I don't know. They do. They do. They do win it, but still, you saw the train didn't really have too much of an impact. He maybe got a couple clips off onto the Winston and the Diva, but he couldn't get back to really those juicy targets that a Tracer normally likes to see. And notice that Waffle-tastic is actually putting a tremendous amount of pressure up here. He's making it very difficult for LG Evil, who normally this is a relatively winning fight. He's making it very difficult for them to actually push in. And so, despite me bashing on Train and saying that he's super terrible and the Tracer was a terrible pick, he winds up getting a quad kill, which you'd think invalidates what I said, but I knew it was coming, and I said it anyway. You have to be courageous. Remember, just at the end, it was just a cleanup. What really mattered, of course, was the initial push. But that was cute, Train getting the quad kill there, of course. Some relatively decent, shall I say, in quotation marks, aim. Now we're getting too many inside jokes in here. No one's going to understand. Too many inside stream jokes. No one from YouTube will understand. Anyway, going to the second part, no swaps from LG Evil. They're just sticking with it. They have a lot of ultimates. Plus, well, none of these guys are going to swap, obviously. They have too much momentum. And then Train isn't going to swap either for the reason we said before. Tracer's relatively okay on this next phase. And CLG, they're going to swap off to Pharah Mercy. Huh. Interesting. Pharah Mercy is decent in the second phase of this map because there's a lot of open air, there's some corners and stuff, but still it can be a bit tricky because Again, it is so wide open. There aren't too many places you can peek and do stuff with on Pharah, and she doesn't have too much of an advantage over most other heroes. So I think it's interesting that CLG swaps to the Mercy Pharah combo. Now, I know Hydration and The are both, that's kind of like their go-to thing. That's their comfort pick. But doing this sort of makes it a little bit awkward for Waffletastic. Makes it a little bit awkward for him. There isn't too much peel. And so CLG is going to be very aggressive. This is intentional because they don't have a lot of peel. This is just a very aggressive composition. Notice Waffletastic, I just backpedaled a little bit. Waffletastic is just like 1v1ing this D.Va in Visor, and there's no one to help him because that's just the nature of the team. And so we see a little bit of anti-synergy going on. We have the Soldier, who's the backline superstar, and we swap on to more aggressive, like a Pharah, who kind of serves the same role. She's like a backline superstar as well, but kind of, you know, she can go and do some stuff every once in a while. Jake in a great position here. This is really cheeky. He's just going to wait for a good time to pop the visor and kill lots of people. He's going to find the Mercy player. Is he the or is he the? I know that you can pronounce it either way, but still, it's interesting how sometimes you say the, sometimes you say the. It depends on how the sentence is sort of structured, what syllables came before it, which one sounds better. Generally, I think the. The is usually the more common one. By the way, they took it. They took the point. All right, so now we just have the last point remaining. Hydration is going to swap off. Miso swaps off as well as iShiny, and everyone swaps off. And I'm actually surprised at this one. So what CLG is doing is they're swapping off, obviously, triple tank. This is the classic triple tank. Duh. Triple tank, pretty good. Well, with the Roadhog, essentially, is pretty good against this. This is like a soft dive, and this is a pretty hard triple tank composition. This is an I would call this an all-in backline comp, and this is like a halvesies dive comp. Obviously, D.Va, like, this is a strong dive comp, but it's still not the full-on triple DPS go wreck you really hard and like wreck your backline really hard comp. That sentence could have taken a turn for the worse. But I'm surprised that they swapped off of the Mercy. So obviously Ana is a superior hero there, but the Mercy was already at 50% ult charge. That's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. And nano boosts, well, being good is not necessarily as good as a Resurrect. And I don't think that the loss of utility from the Mercy really makes up for the fact that you lost basically 60% off of a Resurrect. So, plus, I mean, Mercy's not even that bad. Mercy can heal through the Winston bubble. So I think that Mercy is just like very, very ultra slightly worse than Ana. And if you take into account the fact that she had 60% ultimate charge, the res would have been pretty good. That is my executive decision. I think it could have actually turned the fight there. And then after you use the res, swap to the Ana. But of course, they really valued the Ana in the triple tank composition. A lot of people do. But anyway, guys, that was just a quick, fun little, fun Monday. It's Monday. It's whatever. NA Monday, is that what it is? We're going to do more Apex VODs coming up, and we have a special episode coming up later this week that I will have to confirm before I tell you what it is. But it is special. We're going to have a special guest on, and I think you guys are going to like him. I'll take questions, by the way, as well. But sorry, like I said, guys, I took a week off. I'm back now, though. We'll be doing the daily every day now. Well, I have to go somewhere tomorrow, so maybe it depends on what we'll do, what we're doing. But anyway, I'm gonna keep on streaming. But for you guys on YouTube, never forget to stay positive. Have a great day. Adios. Didn't work. It never works.